Green Bay, Wisconsin, September 20th, 1992. The Cincinnati Bengals are playing the Green Bay Packers. It is the first quarter and Green Bay has the ball. Quarterback Don Majkowski takes the snap.
Four wide receivers. Majkowski under pressure and goes down. And Majkowski appears hurt.
Having injured his ankle on the play, Don Majkowski sits out the rest of the game. He is replaced by a then pretty much unknown player named Brett Favre, who will go on to complete the game, end the season as the starting quarterback, all while awing the world with his lack of a normal length of intestines. Don Majkowski left the Green Bay Packers after the 1992 season. Some 720 miles away in Louisville, Kentucky, all of this was being watched with an intense interest by another Majkowski. Ron Majkowski, a humble repairman who is part of an ancient order who follows a prophecy that demands that a Majkowski must always be the quarterback in Green Bay, lest the world be cursed to doom and gloom. On the news of Don's departure from the team, Ron knew what he must do. So for months he trained to be the best damn quarterback he could be, training to become the next Majkowski on the throne of Lambeau. Training which was going great until one day in July 1993, Ron was running laps around the LSU football field when he had to poop. Oh rats, it's the zombie apocalypse. Ron had always thought the part of the prophecy about having to fend off the shambling hordes to regain the throne was just an allegory for Chicago Bears fans, but it turns out he was wrong. It turns out it was quite literal. So here he was with nothing but a helmet and some football pads, trapped in a porta potty on the LSU football field, ready to start his trial of ascension to earn his rightful place as quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Ron's trial is first in what I hope is a reoccurring series of Zomboid challenges I want to do, where the character is bound to the block they spawn in, to see what kind of challenges they will face and what kind of lives they can carve out for themselves while playing a sort of the roads are lava type game. I don't have a good roleplay reason for this in Ron's case, so let's just pretend the prophecy mentions it somewhere. But Ron can't hide in the shitter all day, can he? No! So let's go! So this is the block he has to work with. It contains a football field, some parking, a dormitory, and an athletics center. And I have the zombie population juiced up to make sure this isn't a walk in the park. My first main goal is to completely retake the football field. But since Ron has the high thirst trait, and I know via a multitude of failed attempts at this start, that the first thing I need to do is acquire a water source. Way down at the other end of the field is a bubbler. Yes, bubbler. If you want a QB in Lambeau, you gotta learn to speak the local language, okay? But the bubbler is a long slog of fighting away, so the better option is to head north and raid the dorms. This will also offer more loot points for food and weaponry. Well, already bleeding. So I got that going for me. I play with near instant zombification because I dislike waiting for days to find out if I'm doomed, so the fact that Ron is still alive means Ron wasn't infected from that attack. After stomping 22 zombies, I've made it halfway to the dorms where I had some good fortune and found a hunting knife in this propane truck. Enjoy a nice Titletown shish kebab, you piece of shit! I made it to the dorms and popped open a window. Which yielded me a hammer, spiffo backpack, some salami, and a bottle of water. But some more Bears fans interrupted the looting, so I gave one more of the old Titletown shish kebab before another got another non-infecting blow onto Ron's left arm. I ran an end around and cleaned out all those that got into the dorm, where I then found an even larger backpack, so I swapped out for that. With a backpack, water, food, and some hammers acquired, my next sub-priority was to carve a path to the entrance of the football field and plug up all access to it. I want access to the football field to be completely blocked so I can then eliminate the defense on the field without any more players wandering into the fight. I spent the rest of the daylight bludgeoning zombies in the parking lot as I worked towards the field gates. The zombies on the other side of the fence weren't a concern, as I'm doing this in Build 41 where those big fences are still indestructible from zombie attacks. But when it got dark, those rascals being on the other side of it was blocking Ron from taking a nap in this van. Being trapped in that porta potty earned Ron the claustrophobic trait, so retreating to the dorms to sleep is out of the question unless he finds some sleeping pills or alcohol, of which he has neither. So not sure what to do, he just studied the carpentry book he found in the van for the rest of the nightly hours. The next morning I cleared more of the parking lot before the tired Moodle finally appeared. Again I tried more vehicles further from the fence, but again was denied sleep. I thought maybe I could lure the fence zombies away from the cars to create a safe sleep space, but even with the heavy fog, that too didn't work. As I drew closer to the max level of tiredness, I spotted a gas can in the back of a pickup truck. I had the keys to the propane truck, so if I could find a car with some gas to borrow, perhaps I could back it up far enough away from the fence to catch some Z's. But alas, I only had to cook one more Titletown shish kebab, and I had finally created a safe zone to sleep in my truck. But going to bed at 4:20 p.m. means I woke up around midnight. So to pass the time in the dark, I did what any good Wisconsinite would do at those hours. Cooked some hamburger in a microwave for a snack, and then sat in my truck practicing my skills at reloading a shotgun. But when dawn finally arrived, it was time to move the ball towards the goal of blocking up the field's entrance, and the hammering of zombies began. After 8 hours of hammering the skulls of the undead, a small victory was achieved. Ron had cleared out a path to the gates wide enough that he was able to drink from the sacred bubbler, after which he used the superhuman strength the bubbler water provided to just pick up 2 vending machines nearby and place them to start the barricade of the football field. He also got a few lightweight tables in place to block some of the doors to this side building that also provides access to the field. It wasn't a complete blockade, nor was it the most durable, but it was at least a start. But with the path cleared, he retreated to gather up a stronger picnic table to help block up the remaining hole. The picnic table being bulky as fuck will require Ron to make 4 separate trips between the gate and where the table was dismantled. Hauling the first piece of the table to the gates drew a moderate zombie crowd that a sleepy and exhausted Ron Mikowski had to fight off before retreating for sleep. Before returning to his sleep truck, he microwaved some salmon for a meal, and then crossed paths with a very oblivious zombie. The sleep truck was surrounded by the undead. He hammered a few in the rain, but being exhausted, he didn't want to try to clear them all out if he didn't have to, so he snuck back to the mail van near the fence. But on this night, it was safe enough to sleep in. The next day was an absolute downpour, but Ron continued on trying to move the picnic table. He got the second piece into the vicinity of the gate, but ended up having to hammer more zombies in the downpour. Thunder started to roar as he deposited the third piece of the table, and more zombies were alerted to his presence. The hammering of zombies continued as the rains fell, but then Ron did something controversial. Something so taboo to the men of Wisconsin that he wasn't sure if he would be revered for the amount of balls it took to openly do it in public without care, or if he would be shunned for the pure audacity of spitting in the face of their masculinity. For it was during this battle, as he was hammering the skulls of the undead in the midst of a great tempest, that Ron Makowski, hopeful future quarterback of the 1993 Green Bay Packers, popped open an umbrella to help stay dry. That afternoon, by the might of hammer and umbrella, and after fighting for nearly 20 hours, Ron had finally gotten the last piece of the table to the gates and installed it. But the war wasn't over, as the gap was still not sealed, as one of the vending machines had fallen during the battles. But knowing he would soon be exhausted, he returned to the dorms to microwave some chicken and clean the blood off his jersey. Then he returned to the mail van and moved away some disgusting nearby corpses before getting some sleep. The next day, he started moving another picnic table towards the gates, but the gates were still too overrun to do this safely. So after a few hours of hammering skulls in the rain, I needed more efficient horde clearing tactics. So I opted to do something that any good Midwest boy can appreciate: whipping shitties in the parking lot. A veritable trucknado of gore and violence that drew in all those nearby with a cacophony of noise. After 3 hours of this, I thought maybe I should use the noise the truck was generating to pull the rest of the horde away from the gate so I could have breathing room to install the next picnic table. But then... oh, the truck broke down. I hopped the fence to safety in order to dodge the horde I had pulled. But the horde was smart enough to know that there was still a gap in the gates, so they started their own end-around play on me. But still riding the high from whipping shitties, Ron desired more thrill. The thrill of shotgunning the undead was unmatched, but in the middle of all of it, a major buzzkill happened. There was just something about having to blow away a loyal cheesehead that just felt blasphemous to Ron. The thrill was gone and the world felt gray as Ron spent the rest of his ammo clearing the hordes. It wasn't enough to wholly take care of the crowd, so he fled beyond the confines of the fence. Sleeping that night triggered the Queasy-Moodle, which means there are too many corpses within the vicinity of his sleep van. But luckily not enough that the sickness outright killed him. So the next morning was spent dragging corpses far away from the van. A boring but necessary task. Dragging another piece of the picnic table to the gates, Ron was disheartened to see much of his progress had been undone. The other vending machine had been destroyed, and half the picnic table was gone. The cherry on top of the shit sundae being a helicopter flying by that, appeared to be drawing all the undead back to the area near the gates. So a new plan was hatched to find more gasoline and try to jam a car up against the turnstiles to block the undead access to the field. I suck at driving, and there were way too many zombies coming at me, so I abandoned the car. But in my panic to GTFO, I also forgot to turn the car off. So not only am I squandering a precious fuel resource, but that motor is also going to be attracting a crowd. Returning to the sleep van, the Queasy-Moodle still wasn't depleting, so it was back to dragging corpses away for a while. Believing I had moved enough away, it was time for sleep. Nope. Not safe again because those goobers were staring at me through the fence. But nothing a little stabby couldn't fix. I ventured deeper into the dorms looking for food and loot when I found something great.
No!
Even better, a machete! With such a top-tier weapon, Ron thought, mayhaps I shall reclaim the football field before plugging up the gates. So he ventured to the western end of the field. He noticed the service shed had its locked door bashed in, so he explored it and found a backup machete. Why, if this wasn't a sign that it was time to take this field as his own, nothing was. I mean, look at this thing. It hits harder than Chuck Cecil. There was still a crowd attracted to the car he had left running, but thanks to the power of the blade, they were no match. After several waves of slicing and dicing zombies, he had enough breathing room to get the car into position tight up against the... That ain't good. Well, he sliced himself out of that situation and did get the car positioned as he intended. Well, close enough at least. By the time night had fallen, he also had positioned a picnic table. Satisfied that this arrangement would hold the front gate, Ron went back to sleep in the sleep van, hoping that this would be his final night using it as a bed. It should be noted here that after this sleep, I turned the game off and came back to it 24 hours later. When I came back to it, I noticed Ron wasn't wearing his shoes. Now, since I'm kinda stupid sometimes, I hadn't noticed that they exploded off his feet as he stomped a zombie the night before. And I didn't notice that the condition of the shoes were at 0%. I just chalked it up to accidentally removing them before going to bed the night before, so I put them back onto Ron's little feetsies and set out on a mission to collect nails to board up the last remaining entry to the field. This was a big mistake. And now all of Ron's little toesies were bleeding like stuck piggies. I swear to God. He plucked the glass out of his feet and stitched them up the best he could. And then he took the first set of shoes he could find, which were these sweet hot pink sneakers that very much clashed with the rest of the Green Bay green and gold. But a little bad fashion was the least of his problems, as his max movement speed was now no more than an awkward hobble. Not being able to run from a horde if the need be, it was probably a foolish risk to return to the field entry to try to board up the remaining points of entry. But much like in football, sometimes you just have to show your true grit and struggle through the pain to make the play that wins the big game. So that's what he did, damn it. He hobbled over a pile of corpses, added a few more to the mound, and he boarded up that window. But he wasn't done with his feats of masculinity yet. Whatever man credit he may have lost by wearing pink shoes and using an umbrella, he regained with interest after single-handedly dragging an entire wardrobe across the sea of corpses and using it to plug up the final doorway. The field was his. But through pain and rain, he wasn't ready yet to make this his first night living in it. By this point, Ron had slaughtered some 700 zombies in his quest to retake the football field. But the work wasn't done yet. He may have conquered the field of screams, but now he needed to turn it into a home of screams. The canopy at the 50-yard line was to be the main point of operations, so he got to work once again dragging corpses far away so that the stench wouldn't make him ill. And after that, like a flag of victory, he set up a fire pit to claim his territory. But the beacon wasn't to be lit yet. He first wanted to move in a nice cozy bed, an easy journey to the dorms with no undead defense to contend with, and a bed was quickly acquired. Now, an interesting fun fact, the open area under the canopy still triggers Ron's claustrophobia, so I had to set up the bed not quite underneath it. But whatever. His bed was in the place, so he lit the first ceremonial campfire and cooked up a bowl of beans in his new home. After Beans o'clock, he did a mission deeper into the dorms to collect more food and to investigate the 2 bookshelves on the top floor. One shelf had a foraging manual, which would be handy as long-term survival is probably going to depend on foraging the football field. He studied the book and tucked himself in for the first night's sleep in his new home. Rats! He still got some corpse sickness that night, so the next morning was spent dragging even more corpses further away from the base. The next day, a few stragglers had found their way onto the field. He dispatched them and added another table to the defenses. It was here that a zombie smelled his manhood and came at him. Well, shit. It appears his blockade is now so effective that it will banish invaders to the Shadow Realm. Wow! The next thing he desired for his base was some sort of water storage so he wouldn't need to keep making trips to the dorms or the bubbler, but there was one conveniently located in a ticket office. Just need to hop it over the fence. Easy peep. Damn it! Well, the solution here was to drag the cooler to the gate, then hop over the fence and dismantle the picnic table, drag the cooler through the gate, and then reassemble the table. Easy peasy. What the? Where did they go? Could Ron be responsible for these disappearances? I mean, his predecessor Don was called the Magic Man. Perhaps the same magic that earned Don that nickname also flowed through Ron's own Mikowski blood, but the prophecy just yet hasn't revealed to him how to wield it. Questions for another day because he still needed to cozy up his base. The next thing the base needed was a refrigerator as a central loot hub for foods yet to be liberated from the dorms. But unlike the water cooler, moving a fridge comes with risk. A 60% chance to break when he attempts to move them. Damn it! Well, the second one he picked up without failure. Just need to get this appliance over the fence. Damn it! So I guess I'll need to haul this thing around through the turnstiles. A distant gunshot rang out while walking the fridge, which seems to have pulled more zombies Ron's way, so he set down the fridge and got to work making more space. The space being made, it was time to get this fridge back to his base. Damn it! Well, he can't disassemble the picnic table from this side of the turnstiles, so he had to once again set the fridge down and climb over the fence to open his gate. Damn it. He didn't want to risk breaking yet another fridge at the gate, so he left the picnic table disassembled and went off for another. Ta-da! Mission success! His little football base was feeling cozier by the hour. He shored up the defenses by adding more barricades to that window, and then he did a loop through the southeast parking lot. He observed some metal fences across the road pulling their weight by keeping the undead off of his block. And then while looting the parked vehicles, he found a few packets of seeds and farming supplies. Things were looking good for Ron, but he wasn't sure when the prophecy would release him from his trial, so he started planning his next moves. He still had 2 floors of resources in the dorms to loot, and figured if he needed more, there was probably enough wood material in there to maybe build a bridge to the next block over. But that was all very future thinking. I mean, he hadn't even yet set foot into the athletic center to see what was useful in there. And he has seeds now! He thought he could plant those out near the 50-yard line to make a cozy farm that would provide a long-term food source. All of this sounded great, but all that daydreaming left him hungry, so he started to roast a dozen eggs on the open flames of his campfire. A move that was innocent enough, but a move that soon turned into an emergency as a simple misstep allowed the flames to jump from eggs to Ron. And here, after 2 weeks of hammering the skulls of the undead, Ron finally panicked. He had forgotten how to stop, drop, and roll. He didn't think to go to the water cooler to maybe extinguish the fire. And so it was here, just out of bounds at the 50-yard line, where the Mikowski prophecy fell unfulfilled to the fires of roasted eggs gone awry. No Mikowski has since fulfilled the prophecy, casting the world that you and I know into a dark period of doom and gloom.
I would tell you of his grace and how it was I fell, but some tales are just too dark